Okay, welcome to Sunday Shop Talk. I thought I'd do a quick video today, not an in-depth, on the two different dominoes, the small and the big one. I've been working on a project this week and a bit of last week, and I keep finding myself using both dominoes all the time. So I thought it'd be a good reason, and I get asked the question, which one would I have? Well, the quick answer is, if I could only have one, I would have the big domino. But I'll show you why, for me, having both of them is actually really important. And on this project, one domino is the only thing that could have done one of the jobs, and the other domino is the only one that could have done the other job. So let's just have a quick look at the differences. So the bonus of the large domino is the plunge depth. So this can do a 70mm plunge. Now what that means is, and I'll show you an example, you can actually do your glue up and plunge your domino after you've glued up. Now it might sound odd, but there's actually a very fast way of doing it. If you don't need to hide the dominoes, it's a really quick way to get a repeated connection. You can leave it on the tight setting, even if you're putting 20 of them in a row, because you're putting them in afterwards. So you get a very, very strong joint. So let me show you an example, and that's one of the bonuses of the big domino. So we're using these small 8mm dominoes. They come with the set for the DF500, and this is the 700 XL. And a good reason is this is 8mm and 40 long. Now the plunge, I believe, is 28mm on the smaller machine, where the plunge on this one, on the bigger machine, is 70. So what we can do, I've already pre-glued these up. This is for a bed build I'm doing. And instead of dominoing each side and then bringing it together, I've already put it through the plane, got it level, marked it, and what I can do with a bigger machine is run it straight through, because we're not going to see the back of this, you'll see in a moment when I clamp it. So now that we've gone right through, which we can only do with a larger domino, it's really quick and easy to just buzz these in. So you can see there how it's useful. Now the drawback on the big domino, unless you start gluing, which I used to do, or double-sided tape pads on here, is the minimum depth of cut for the thickness of the ply, for instance, or the thickness of the material, I should say. So there is a minimum depth, if you can see here. So if I zoom in and you look here, that is the minimum depth of cut. Now the problem is, as you can see, if I move forward, that's not quite centered. That's 12mm ply, that's not quite centered. Whereas, go to the smaller domino, 12mm ply, no problem with the smaller domino, get away with 9mm ply. You can add a packer on there, and then that will get the blade for smaller work like 12mm ply or even 9mm ply. But what you cannot do is reduce this gap. It's about 15mm between the base plate and the center of the cutter. Whereas on the smaller machine, it's more like 10mm between the base plate here and the bottom of the cutter. I'll show you an example where I had a rebate and I needed to cut a domino into the rebate. The bigger machine couldn't handle it because the rebate was too small. Okay, so what we're going to do on this, which is quite different, we're going to make an adjustment to the domino, because we're going to reference the back face of this board and the front face of this board, and I'm going to do a little line-up check, and that's going to give us the ability to do a half lap joint and still use dominoes. That's pretty good. The other main difference is this does really create a very structural joint, the bigger machine. I'll give you a couple of examples of joints. Now what that does is allows us to drop that in and push that into it. So now that's screwed in, simply push this through here, lock it down, and there's your joint. And then the other difference is when you're using them. So if you're doing a great big structural joint, then it's great that you're using a big machine to cut a 14mm, 12mm. But if you're doing small, fast, repeat work, to be honest, this is quite heavy and quite cumbersome. And it's much easier whizzing along with this. But the plunge depth is so limited. The maximum plunge depth on here is 28mm. The plunge depth on this big one, as I said before, is 70mm. What's also nice about the big one is you have two stops. So if you're doing a deep cut and then a mild cut, you can set an upper and a lower limit and switch between them really quickly. They both have the loose or tight joints, and they can both do the 45 mitres. Now these machines are not cheap, but what they can do and the time they can do it in, literally your imagination is your only limit. And it really gives us small shops the ability to compete with the big manufacturing and CNC-based businesses. It's just a game changer, all three of them. I've got links in the description to the Zeta, showing you how that works. It's the king of mitres without a doubt, and using simply a click, fit, tenso and some glue, the Zeta is absolutely the king of mitres and so fast to work on large panel work. But all three of them have their place, and I wouldn't be without any of them. So the big Domino also has a selection of mechanical joints, mechanical fittings for breakdown joints. Small Domino does as well now, but the big ones on here are really structural. When it comes to the mechanical joints on the 500, I found them a bit fiddly, and I went with Lamello Zeta instead for the smaller stuff that needs to be breakdown and quick to assemble. So this machine really is like a handheld mortiser, and you can do lots of clever things with the cutter, not even using a domino, make these mega dominoes, which I've done another video for. I'll put a link in the description for making a mega domino. So I hope that's been interesting and given you a bit of an insight into what you can do with the two different machines, the differences between them, and maybe help someone pick them. As I said, there's lots of videos on YouTube with in-depths on the machine, so go and check them out if you want to know the ins and outs of each machine. The bed build I've been doing, so on my Patreon site, I've already got 2 20-minute or so videos of the bed build. It's going to be over 3 parts on Patreon. Then I'll do the cut down version. You still see everything on YouTube. It's just that if you want to kind of feel like you're in my workshop over my shoulder, the Patreon site's the one for you, because it's really long-winded. Certainly not for everybody. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. Thanks for all your support. Makerscentral winner last week. Hopefully he's got his t-shirt. Also, if you go onto my Instagram page, you can also see some of these build stuff before it happens on YouTube. It does take quite a long time to get everything together, finish the project and edit the video, which is how I'm uploading pictures all the time onto Instagram and unfinished videos onto Patreon. But anyway, thanks again for all your support. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one.